We're in the Bassmaster studio today with Drew Benton, talking about a bait that contributed to your Elite Series title on Lake Travis for 2018 Toyota Texas Fest, and that's a big spoon. We've seen them out on ledges. We've seen them dropping on, from the trolling motor, different variations of spoons. Kind of break down, you got a lot of sizes here and a lot of colors. When do you, what's your preference on spoon selection?
For me, a spoon is a tool that I use to trigger a fish that's really not feeding, or get you that one or two extra bites that you might not get, out deep or under a dock like at Lake Travis. Typically, just like any bait, you match the hatch. You match what size to what bait fish swims. Tennessee River to Lake Travis. I mean, you had big gizzard shad on Tennessee River, so you see these Magnum Flutter Spoons by Nichols come out year after year in the summertime on ledges. Then he's got the mini Magnum, which is a little bit smaller, and then you've got your normal 6-inch Flutter Spoon. Again, it's a bait that I wouldn't necessarily pull up and be my first cast with, but it's a tool that I'll throw in there, after I busted them up off a ledge or caught what I caught, and throw in there to try to fire them back up or pick up a couple more fish. Going back to Travis, it was a shad spawn deal going on, and you're fishing under docks that had 100 foot of water on them. So whenever those fish would get done feeding on shad, they would get down there and get in a foul mood, not feeding, suspend, and I'd flip that Flutter Spoon down through there and jerk it up, and I would trigger one to bite that I wouldn't catch any other way. So it's a bait that consistently, day in and day out, gets bites when fish are not feeding.
So is there something on your graph when you're idling, or like you said, a school, when you catch a couple out of it, when they start maybe suspending, or do they need to be on the bottom? What's your like? It's kind of this. You can catch them doing both, but is it one of those where you look at it and you're like, those are spoon fish? Yeah,
I think typically if you see a lot of fish suspended up off the bottom, not in that, feeding down close tight to the bottom where you're thinking, yeah, I need to throw a crankbait or a swim bait through there. If you see them up through the bottom, I might throw a spoon through them, first. Whereas, typically I'm gonna, hit them with different baits first.
So I've got two more questions. Your setup, what kind of rod and line are you gonna have? Because some of these are big ones, or the way you work a spoon requires a little more action or a little more backbone in your rod.
Yeah, these bigger Magnum size spoons, I like a 8-foot or 7/6 at minimum. You're trying to take up a lot of ground with that spoon, whether you're casting it on a ledge or you're pitching it in a dock or whatever. 20-pound Seagar and Viz-X line, heavy duty line, and then I might go as low as a 7-foot on these smaller spoons, but it's a meat and potato setup. You don't skimp out on a medium rod. You want a heavy action rod with backbone, because I don't play a fish when I get them hooked on that single treble hook. I boat flip everything I catch 9 times out of 10. If you try to play them, they've got so much weight on that spoon to throw the hook, you got to get them in as fast as you can.
And then for gear ratio, you said you got to take up a lot of line with the rod length. Does that mean you're going to go to an 8 to 10 gear ratio reel as fast as you can get?
The highest gear ratio I can get my hands on is a Lew's 8 to 1. So that's what I use, and I just go with it from there.
I lied. I got one more question. Stinger hooks. We see trebles come standard, a lot of stingers getting put into play. Do you mix around with those single stinger hooks?
I do. Nichols actually makes, I don't have them with me, but they make a stinger hook combo that they sell that goes on the top of this deal. And a lot of times when you're fighting a fish, another one will come up and grab on, and you can actually double up on these spoons, and that's a lot of fun as well. But absolutely on these, especially on these bigger ones, not so much on the small ones, but these bigger spoons, I like their stinger hook setup.
Tennessee River, Texas, some of these lakes have big fish in them, and it's getting to be that time where they're moving offshore. You're gonna get them grouped up, and if you wanna catch as many fish as you possibly can, maybe some of the biggest out of the school, try throwing a spoon this summer, and you'll probably like the result.